Hey, and you've spent some time with Dale Sr. as well.
Yeah. It's funny, at Daytona every year now, I do this thing so that with a late friend, Marcy Scott, Marcy was, her name is over the door at the media center at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We lost Marcy to cancer several years ago, but Marcy and I were having a conversation. It would have been 7-8 years ago. We're standing in the back of the media center at Daytona the morning of the race. And, like John Cena or Chris Evans or, somebody, Charlize Theron, somebody's doing their press conference like they do in the morning on race day. And she leaned over to me and she goes, how many people in this room, because it's packed, how many people in this room were ever just in the room with Dale Earnhardt Sr.? And, and every year you go back to Daytona, this was my 29th Speed Weeks, early this month. And every time you go back, there's fewer people that were in the room. I'm not talking about being friends with him, but just knew him a little bit or were just in the room with him. And the number gets smaller and smaller every year. But, yeah, it drove me a little crazy when Dale passed in 2001, how many people came out and said, oh, yeah, well, he and I went fishing one time. No, you didn't. I mean, all of a sudden, everybody's your best friend. Oh, it happens now. People pass away. Chris Mortensen, my longtime colleague at ESPN, passed. I was like, I remember I did. No, you didn't. I was with him all the time. I never saw you. And so a lot of people claim to have been closer to Dale Sr. than they actually were. But I was around him a lot. And he knew my name. I know that. That was cool. I didn't know that he knew my name. But he was the ultimate compliment from Dale Sr. was if he gave you a hard time. And there was 2 times he did it to me. We did I was in the garage back in the day of the 90s, right? Everybody's testing at the racetrack all the time.
Right.
And and so I worked on a show called RPM Tonight. It's a nightly motorsports show on ESPN2, and I was a field producer. And every week, they're testing at Darlington, they're testing at Martinsville, they're testing it. We would get in the car, drive over there and do it. And we go to Charlotte, and there's like 3 cars testing. It's like Dale and like Bill Elliott and like Greg Sachs or somebody, And I had a date that night, and I had no idea that I was going to be going to the racetrack. And so I was dressed for the date. I was going to go on the date right after. So I've got on like Abercrombie, I got on a blue shirt, and I got on like Dockers, I got on khakis. I'm ready to go. Bucks, I'm ready to go. It's the 90s. And I go to the racetrack, and Dale comes pulling the racetrack and pulls in the garage stall. I'm just standing there, we're shooting footage, whatever. And the window net comes down, and the crew's messing around. Doug goes, hey. I looked at him. He said, you're dressed a little damn preppy for the racetrack. I go, yeah, I got a date tonight. He goes, all right. And he said, do you need to talk to me? I said, yeah. He goes, we're going one more run. We'll come back. We'll talk. Great. Next one of the run comes in. He gets out, and he goes, all right, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll come back, and we'll knock this out. I go, okay. And when he comes back, he grabbed my shoulders, and he squeezed the back of your neck, and he took his hand, he smacked me right in the center of the back. Oh, my man's got a date tonight, hot date. All right, we'll get you out of here, great. And what I didn't know was he had put his fingers in some sort of bear grease, something, and just put handprints on my back, and like, oh, that's the reason he kept smacking me and stuff. And so the interview's done, I go walking through the garage, and like Bill Elliott's crew's like laughing. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with everybody? Why is everybody laughing at me? And I get in the truck, and I'm like, I remember I stopped to get gas or something, and there's something on the seat of my truck. I was like, what is this? And I realized, so I take my shirt off like in the parking lot of the gas station, and I got Dale Earnhart's handprints on the back of my thing.
My God.
He put like a sticker back there, like a Moog awesome. Chassis parts or whatever. And so, that was a typical Dale Earnhardt prank because it was funny, but it wasn't funny.
Right.
And so now I got to go back to my apartment. I got to change clothes. And I'm an idiot. I threw the shirt away. It was ruined.
Yeah.
But how amazing would it be
if you
have
didn't
this
wash
shirt?
it?
Should have that frame.
Yeah.
But Dale Earnhardt's handprints were on it. So yeah, there was that, and then there was one time, at the 1999, the end of the 20th century, ESPN did this big, broad, sweeping project that kind of was the granddaddy of 30 for 30 and all that, and it's called Sports Century. And they went and polled all these sports writers, broadcasters, whatever, and came up with the list of the top 100 athletes of the 20th century. And they did documentaries on the top 50. It's Michael Jordan and Babe Ruth, and you can imagine. Almost no race car drivers on the list. And they were all in like the 90s. And it was like AJ, Mario, Richard Petty, that was it. They're like 92, 95, whatever. So I decide, working on RPM Tonight, we're going to do the top 10 drivers of the 20th century. And I'm going to do features on it. And I polled a bunch of writers, and they came up with a list. And we set down interviews. All the guys were alive. We set down interviews with everyone. We go up to DEI, which is brand new. This was in 1999, and it's the Garage Mahal and all that stuff. And Dale's agreed to do an interview. And they set us up in the executive, lunchroom, this really, really nice dining hall. And there's an executive chef and all that stuff. And so Dale, we're getting set up. We get there an hour and a half early. And we're getting set up. All of a sudden, the door flies open. And Doug goes, "What the hell are y'all doing?" We're getting ready for the interview. He goes, "We got to go. Get set up. It's time to get on with this thing." And I'm like, "Dale, we got like an hour and a half." "No, you don't. You got 5 minutes. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Y'all better be ready." Slams the door.
Oh, my God.
And we don't even – so now we're hauling gear and sandbags and hanging lights and all this stuff. And this is the 90s, right? So y'all got these fancy LED lights. These are old school, hot as hell, theater.
Radiate.
They weigh
Fire
500
hazard.
pounds. So we're setting up all this stuff. As me, I remember the photographer's Chuck Lampy, and I can't remember who the third guy was. And we're scrambling. And we get it all set up. And in the middle of it, he opens the door again. "Y'all ready? Damn it, it's time to be ready." And slams the door shut again. So we get it ready, and I'm sweating and everything. And then he comes in, and he goes, "Well, good job, y'all." He goes, "Now let's eat."
Oh, my
And they bring in lunch. And so we all sat there and had lunch. And I am rattled. And now he's like, "Man, eat this escargot. This is great." I'm like, all right. And so he completely messed with us. So then we do the interview. And the anniversary, 20th anniversary of his death in 2001, we did a big series, a big 30 for 30 documentary, E60 documentary for ESPN. And I told the producers, go find this interview. Because in my mind, it was the greatest interview of all time. I wasn't a reporter. I was a field producer. And they found the interview in the back corners of the library at ESPN. So I only have a clip. And and the voice you hear in the background that sounds like a scared 12-year-old, that's 29-year-old me, not even 29, 26-year-old me, and I'm completely rattled and nervous to be talking to Dale Earnhardt. Is that one of the things that a lot of guys sometimes in their career, they say, "Man, I really would like to run against Richard Petty when he was at his best," or "I would like to run against Jeff Gordon when he was at his best," and you hit all that.
I've been, fortunately, I was able to race with Kel Yarborough and Richard Petty and David Pearson and then Darrell Waltrip and all these guys, and then here goes Rusty Wallace and now Gordon, and I've been fortunate, been around a while. Maybe I've been around too long, but I still feel like we got some years to be around, and hopefully we can be racing Dale Jr. and some of these other guys for a championship.
And so the interview, in my mind, the interview was an hour long, and it was epic. And what you saw is about half the interview. The thing was about 12 minutes long. And toward the interview, you see his eyes moving around. He's looking for J.R. Rhodes, his longtime PR guy, it's time to get out of here. But he was so good to me, and we talked after that. But a story I've told the story a couple of times, but I always think about him when it comes to Las Vegas, because the first Las Vegas race, which was this same year, in 99, I wasn't there. And the reason I wasn't there, and back then I was doing 25 races a year. I wasn't there. My mother passed away very unexpectedly at the end of February. And I was supposed to go to Vegas next week, and I wasn't there. And I was gone for about a month. And you guys know this, when you travel every weekend, it's not a big group. It's only a few hundred people. And so you know when someone's not there. And I knew Dale knew my face because I was there every week. But there wasn't any way he knew my name. I wasn't. Again, my job was to get Matt Yoakum and Bill Weber and John Kernan and these guys, Jerry Punch and these guys, set them up. I was a producer. But I remember I finally came back to the racetrack, and it was at Darlington. And I was coming out of the bathroom. Y'all know they got that old locker room bathroom thing at that old garage in Darlington. I was coming out of the bathroom, and Dale walked past me. It's in the middle of happy hour. And he walks past me, and I walked past him, and he just kind of nodded at me. All of a sudden, he goes, "Ryan." It's the only time I heard him say my name. And I turned around, and he walked up to me, put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, "I heard about you, Mom." He goes, "I'm so sorry." And now I'm trying not to cry, in front of the Intimidator. And he goes, "I need to tell you something." He goes, "Everybody's going to tell you that you're going to get over this one day." He goes, "You are never going to get over this." He said, "My dad died, 25 years ago, whatever it was." And he goes, "You never get over it. You just learn how to live with it." And he goes, "And you just do what you can to make her proud." And I'm like, "Thank you." And he turned, went in the bathroom, and I fell apart. And then going back to the fact that I wasn't really close with Dale Jr. when his father passed away, sometime in the spring of 2001, I stopped Dale Jr. and told him that story. And he didn't know me. You know, we knew each other a little bit at the racetrack, and I know he didn't remember it because if you ever lost a parent, you just walk around in a fog, you know, and especially everything that Dale Jr. was dealing with. So it was, I had a friend lost a parent just last week. I'm at that age now where that's happening a lot. And I recount that story from Dale Sr. all the time. I don't say, well, Dale Earnhardt told me, because that's just right. But I say best advice I ever received from anyone after the death of my mother was that. And so I always think about that when it comes to Vegas, because Vegas was the next race after Mom passed. And so yeah, it was that was my Dale Earnhardt. So I got Dale Earnhardt giving me a hard time moments, and then I got literally the greatest advice I ever received when it came to grief. And then who knew that 2 years later, you know, we'd all be falling back on that same advice because we'd lost him. So there you go.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's literally all the stories I have. Like, again, all these people that tell these stories, oh, yeah, Dale and I used to go hunting together. Right. And Childress would go, that damn guy never went hunting with us. You know, all of a sudden everybody starts claiming they were friends, but those are my Dale Sr. stories.